My name is Dr. Molly McMullen-Laird, and I'm a co-founder of Steiner Health in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The idea to have an inpatient anthroposophical facility or an anthroposophical hospital in the United States goes back many decades. There are many physicians who have seen the need for this, and many patients also wishing for an anthroposophical facility in the United States, and we were able to, things just worked out that we were able to be in Europe and get that training, and then decided that we would approach the greater anthroposophical community and find people who are interested in starting this small hospital. We had the good fortune of being able to spend quite a few years in Germany and Switzerland, so that we were able to train with other anthroposophical doctors, and we both were able to work as assistant doctors in the hospitals in Europe doing anthroposophical medicine. This was a very important experience for us and gave us a lot of confidence in the model and the remedies, so that we were able to feel that we could open a center here in the United States serving American patients. The idea of having an anthroposophical inpatient facility in the United States is a very complicated and unfamiliar concept for Americans. So describing our concept and expecting patients to understand that has been a very difficult process. Even many of the physicians do not understand what happens when a patient comes and spends 2 weeks in a facility, in a home atmosphere with excellent nutrition, with all of the therapies, with all of the supportive activities. It's very different than a patient who's at home doing one therapy on one day of the week, or making their own meals, or doing their own spiritual work. When they come here, they really have an immersion kind of experience, and everything is organized for them. So the patients just have to sort of slip into the framework of the program that we have established and is modeled after the European anthroposophical clinics. One of the really great things about the health center, the inpatient program, and also our office setup is that we have a significant amount of time to spend with our patients, especially at the Rudolf Steiner Health Center when the patients come. We're able to see them in many different situations, observe them in the therapies, and through our consultations, able to go into much more depth about what is really behind the illness, and what are the threads that go through the patient's life that have brought them to this situation, and how to take them further or guide them further. We see this very much as the patient's journey, and finding out where the patient starts and helping them figure out where they would like to go on their next steps. Anthroposophical medicine is a form of integrative medicine or alternative medicine or a cousin to homeopathy. There are many ways that you could categorize anthroposophical medicine. It is not very well known in this country, much more practiced in Europe, particularly the German-speaking countries in Europe. And the wonderful thing about anthroposophical medicine is that it is on a foundation of understanding that each human being has the ability to heal themselves given the right set of circumstances and given the support that they will need to sort of awaken those self-healing capacities. So that's called salutogenesis. It's a big, long, funny word, but what that basically means is that we do have, the human organism is exquisite and intelligent and capable and adaptable, and that we have all of these processes in our organism, call it biochemistry, call it ego organization, call it destiny, however you want to look at it, that we are able to move along a path of health, using the illness as a teacher, using the illness as a way for us to understand our organism better and to get support in those areas where we have a weakness. Rudolf Steiner has told us that each human being comes into the world with the opportunities sort of planned in a certain way between the previous death and their rebirth for what is the next stage of development. Now, illness can play a very large part in that development because the illness allows us to look at ourselves in a very different way. The illness is something that is threatening, that is fear-inducing, that is demoralizing on many levels. But if we are able to teach the patient how to use the illness in order to find their own difficulties, their own perhaps emotional reactions that are hindering their further ability to develop, or things that have happened in the past that they may need to move through or work through, then the patient is freer and more creative and more fulfilled and healthier. That's just how all that works. So it's a very exciting journey to be the physician as a helper along the way, someone who we are privileged to hear the stories, to work with the patients, and also to see the incredible changes that the patients make. In a 2-week retreat, which is not a very long time, the patients go through amazing transformations, and we are able to be witnesses to that. It's happened over and over again, and we know the environment, the therapies, the physician support, the remedies, the diet, all of those things really help to bring the patient to a different place. And that's why we do what we do. We are often asked what new patients should know about anthroposophical medicine before they come to the practice and are first being introduced to it. And I think the most important thing is to be open to using something different than conventional medicine. Often our treatments take longer. For instance, if you were to treat something with an antibiotic, it will go away very quickly. You see very quick response. But then a few weeks later or a month later, the problem may arise again. So for instance, sinusitis is a very good example of that. Patients have acute sinusitis. They want relief right away and gravitate towards the conventional treatment, with or without antibiotics or some kind of a strong decongestant, antihistamine kind of combination. The way we would treat the patient would be a much more fundamental approach to healing out the mucosa of the sinuses, and that takes longer, but then they have a lasting recovery. Whereas with the conventional approach, it's rather quick and convenient for the patient, but then they, like I said before, they may then in a few weeks then have that problem recur again and again and again, which is most patients with acute/chronic sinusitis will tell that story of having every winter having 2 or 3 bouts of sinusitis, probably on the background of some allergic conditions. So we treat the allergies and the chronic sinusitis and the acute sinusitis, and then our patients often will go, after a year or so, will have no more of that problem for the next however many decades that they live, or maybe very small issues that we can handle quite quickly. So it's a much more fundamental approach to taking care of the problem. So if you're willing to put the time in and have the patients to work through a problem, and if that sounds interesting to you, then that's the kind of work that we like to do. For our cancer patients, one of the hallmarks of anthroposophical medical care has been the introduction of mistletoe extracts for cancer treatment. This is very well known around the world, and many different products have been created through anthroposophical pharmacies and companies in Europe. So there are quite a few different preparations to use. The mistletoe preparations have been classified as immunomodulators, meaning that they support the immune system to work more aggressively against the cancer. As we know from basic science, we are constantly producing abnormal cells, constantly having mutations in our genetic replications, and the system usually takes care of those things. It usually is able to find that problem and rid itself of it. When the cancer has actually taken hold, in other words, we have an actual physical manifestation of the cancer in a tumor that is measured and seen on imaging, then we have a situation where the immune system is no longer able to recognize, or no longer able to fight that existence of the tumor, and the tumor sort of has a way of almost creating its own disguise so that the system is not recognizing it. And what the mistletoe does is it helps the system to recognize that there's something there and to go after it in a more aggressive way. So many of our patients are doing both conventional treatment and the mistletoe treatment for cancer, plus the other things that we do, overall support for the patient. Many of those are individualized depending on what kind of tumor the patient has, where they are in their treatment experience, and what side effects they may be experiencing. Being a doctor is something that fascinates me every single day of my life, and I think many physicians feel this way. There is no boredom. There is always a new challenge every day, and anthroposophical medicine adds even another layer to that excitement and interest and challenge, because we're trying to find things that are non-toxic, that support the whole process of the patient, not just the symptom. So we have a whole nother layer of things to think about and work with, and it is just always fulfilling and challenging and exciting. So it's just, to me, it's a fabulous career, and has been hard work, but also very fulfilling work. So it has been extraordinarily, well, it's just had very, very good effect. My initial idea about what I would do when I grew up, so to speak, when I was in high school, I was very excited about biology. When we dissected a frog, I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. I mean, I was on cloud 9 about dissecting a frog. I can remember just thinking that was just the most fabulous thing, and that I would just need to be a biology teacher. When I was in college, I was very interested in biochemistry and all of the functions of the organism, and I thought that was really just totally amazing. So I wanted to do research, and did do some research projects, got involved with a variety of things that after a while did not feel very satisfying to me. And then I was introduced to anthroposophical medicine, and that kind of through my husband. At that time was not my husband, but he introduced me to these ideas. And with time, it just sort of, my interest in science, and particularly in biological organisms, kind of transformed into an interest in pursuing anthroposophical medicine. So when I went to medical school, I knew that that was going to be my path. But I also loved the basic sciences, and I did love everything about medical school and residency. I love conventional medicine. I love internal medicine, the diagnostic aspect, all of the various ways that diseases can manifest. And it's a little bit like being a detective when the patient comes to you trying to find out what this illness could be, or how it takes its form in this person versus another person. There's just an unending number of challenges and curiosities, and I mean, you could spend your whole day, all of your hours, just researching especially online researching medical conditions. It's also very fun to recognize a disease process in someone that has taken a slightly different form. That's always like an exciting kind of thing about medicine. So I love regular medicine, and I love the extension of regular medicine into anthroposophical medicine, where I'm able to use things that are not only not toxic for the patient, but not toxic for the earth. The remedies that we use, most of them you could just, water your plants with, or, if you were to flush them down the toilet, you don't have to worry about, creating ambiguous genitalia in various amphibians downstream. So we are doing things that are environmentally friendly as well as really supporting the patients. People often wonder why we are so dedicated to this mission, and it is a lot of work, and why it's been 20 years now here in Ann Arbor, and then many years before that preparing for this. It's just, I can only say that I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. It's such an incredible opportunity. We have a beautiful facility in the Rudolf Steiner Health Center. We have a wonderful group of patients in our outpatient office, and we've had fabulous staff and therapists and nurses, and we just feel like we've got a whole family of people in a certain way who are connected to this mission, who work hard. Our board members, our advisory board members, there are just so many people who have been involved, and it stands up to its name of community-supported anthroposophical medicine. We get to be the ones who see it day in and day out, and it's just amazingly rewarding.